think they've got more. I think this has more emphasis on hitting you. This has more emphasis on
hitting them.
Welcome back to AATV. Phil and I have just finished our video looking at the max ranges and just getting to know all these different recoil guns, and we thought what we'd do now is a head-to-head. So we're going to put the Maruis versus the ERG, we're going to put the MWS versus the GHK, Phil's going to fire the GBLS, and we'll just get some thoughts about how the different recoil systems feel, what they like to operate, and
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how, you know, they've all got the same concept, executed in slightly different ways.
Okay, so that's coming up. I've not fired one of these for about 2 years, so I'm very interested.
Proper safety.
So same safety, you can't go, it's nice, you can't go into safe unless the hammer's cocked.
Yeah.
Safety's not quite as...
It's worth pointing out as well that the difference between the Marui and the GHK in the way the trigger group's put together.
Yeah, very different.
The trigger group is completely different.
This is very almost realistic.
That you could probably swap the real sears for. In fact, with the original Wii guns, that was part of the problem with the ATF.
You can't now, these have been slightly changed so you can't.
Size and
but the way it works is very similar. So the selectors are quite different. Still nice. This is
still
nice.
much nicer than
an AEG or a Recoil.
Yeah. I think the bolt, the buffer spring's a bit stronger on the MWS. Felt a little bit stronger pulling it back.
It is. I should probably. I'm going to change. I'm going to put a harder buffer in that and a harder buffer spring when I'm done with it.
The trigger's softer. It's not as crisp as the GHK. But I think the trigger pull's roughly the same. There's not much in it with regards to weight.
So you're going to ghost this with me. So there's a little. No take up. And we go, oh, a little bit take up. It's quite wooden. Tiny bit of mushy take up.
It's quite a clean break.
Compared to that though.
There is more going on in there though, isn't there? I think one of the great things about the Marui system is the way that
this has got a really deliberate take up to the wall.
Yeah.
And the wall is
breaks really crisply.
Breaks really nicely, and then the reset is. See.
Yeah, nice.
Reset's a bit woody, but it's much more mush. This reset's actually better. Right, let's put a mag in.
There you go.
So 2 mags. This operates very similarly. Phil's got 2 holes here. Put it in the right one. And we'll cock it.
It's a bit crisper than the GHK there.
Thank you.
On the burst.
More accurate. I think.
And that's completely stock, that Marui, internally.
What's that? Yes, anyway. Oh.
Gas. The way that engages, or the system that engages the bolt stop there, is much kinder on the internals for the MWS. Sounds crisper.
It is. I think that recoil's harder. That's crisper, so it cycles faster.
Yeah.
That kicks harder.
That's got a plastic buffer.
I think they've got more. I think this has more emphasis on hitting you. This has more emphasis on
hitting them. Yeah, you can feel it. Definitely, you can feel it.
That's really interesting putting them next to each other. These are the two big players on the. I know there's VFD and KWA, but these really are the two big players.
Do you know what, recoil wise, yes, that has got the edge.
Different impulse though, isn't it?
There's not a huge amount in it. The trigger is crisper on that, but it's negligible, I think, when you're actually firing. I
think
this is more accurate.
Yes, even with an upgraded barrel.
Yeah.
It's more accurate, definitely.
Cost-wise, they're pretty much comparable, really, aren't they? Let's face it. So it really does come down to. I guess one of the big pluses for the MWS is if you're really into changing things up. Heyo do more for the Marui than the.
Yes, we do.
So there's some really nice. I think they've even done a monolithic A2 upper now, but it's
Archery are just about to release their
AEG version on.
No, it's a full GHK version off the shelf done. Of the other one, the 982.
But otherwise, you know, you can put real stocks on it, real pistol grips on the MWS as well.
Yeah.
The weird thing for the Mark 18 is the barrel nut is very weird. It's not like a proper Mark 18 rail. So that's something to bear in mind.
Richard at Eagle 6 gets very cross when it's the changer.
Well, I've got a tool for it now that slides over the outer barrel.
I wouldn't be upset with either of them.
No, if somebody said, right, you can have your pick, I'd probably go Marui, but this is about the 6th, 7th MWS I've had. You know, firing either of them, you do get a nice kick to the shoulder. It's definitely more of a tactile experience than any of the other recoils.
That does 89 decibels when it fires.
Okay.
So it's over here. It's not hearing safe.
No. No, it'd be interesting to see what that one does. So I think volume-wise, there wasn't much in it. I'd be happy with either.
The two, they're very, very different.
Completely, yeah.
And this is Marui going for performance.
And so they have this bar which engages on the cutoff when it needs to stop. So it pushes that bar up, which just protects.
And this fire control group is very like a real one. It's not quite the same. They're not compatible. You can't put real bits in it.
No.
But they've changed the geometry and the pins and everything. But works very much like a real fire control group in an AR.
And this is nothing like.
And that's kind of the heart of the difference, really.
And this one has roller bearings on it as well.
But you can change. And they've both got real-ish buffer systems. You can put real buffers in these.
I did run a real AR buffer on my last MWS, and that improved the kick considerably.
That's interesting. I do vastly prefer the trigger in this, but again, once you're actually doing something, you don't really notice it that much. But
they both put BBs down range.
That bit there is why you want a gas globe, lad.
Oh yeah.
Right, let's do. So I think really, I know we're being really, really vague. I think if you want performance, if you want realism or immersion, there's not much in it, really. If you do want better performance, they are better.
Yeah. I think if you want more bits, like if you want OEM parts, then there's plenty for that, isn't there?
There's tons.
But if you want aftermarket tune-up bits, I think there is more for the MWS. You're just too busy enjoying the trigger, aren't you?
It's broken in now. It's lovely.
Yeah. So I think there's more options for upgrading the MWS.
Yeah.
But that's often the case with Maruis.
These don't really need much.
But this is completely stock.
They don't break a lot either.
No.
So. Selector.
Bagwell's quite stiff. Rotary hop. A
Build quality looks nice and tight, doesn't it?
Magwell's quite tight.
Ooh.
So that visibly jumps more than the Marui.
Got much more of a thump. Now this has a tightening, so I'm not going to worry about the rate of fire or anything because this is electronic, and so and really just all we're going to think about is
very different sound.
well, these don't have this,
Yeah.
which I think they quite sensibly deleted on the ERG. So it takes up, there's a lot of moving parts and mechanisms.
Yeah. Like I said, the ERG is a lot easier to work on.
Sort of more vibration, but less actual recoil
On the
Marui.
Yeah.
I would say there's kind of more jumping.
Yeah, well,
but there's less thumping.
Yeah, even though it's not much, it's still moving that little bolt cover and the mechanism that moves it, isn't it?
Still disgustingly accurate. They both have that slightly weird forward back to them, unlike a gas gun which just slams back at you.
Yeah.
And the GBLS does it as well. They have that, but this definitely comes back harder. Absolutely.
Yeah, it does.
Much more. Probably even 100% more actual recoil.
I think so. Yeah.
That does more. Let's see what Phil thinks. Different noise. Overall.
Yeah, that's
Feels like an ERG.
yeah. I mean, you can feel it.
Yeah.
In the shoulder more, definitely. Yeah, I mean,
not as much.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it is hands down the ERG for the recoil. It's just fun when you do that, though.
Right, let's get in with
I think for me, safety on. I don't know.
Do you know? Do you not?
I don't know.
Ooh.
I don't get me wrong. I really like the ERGs.
Yeah.
You know, I've always been a massive fan. I wonder if some of that's tainted by the fact they're just not really supporting it, whereas Marui are launching new ones, you know,
today.
all the time. Today. Yeah, exactly. Functionality, that is easier to work on. I wouldn't want to take one of these apart in a safe zone.
No, I wouldn't.
Whereas I've taken those apart in a safe zone many times. I would say at the moment, for skirmish ability, I'm tied. For pure recoil and tactility, the ERG.
Yep.
But let's see what the DAS does. That is quite nice, though.
What do you reckon, Phil? After all these years?
The trigger pull's definitely better.
Yeah.
They've definitely improved that. I think it kicks about the same as the ERG.
It's not far off, is it?
I don't think there's a huge amount more in it. Even though you've got the bolt carrier group moving, it doesn't feel as the same as a gas blowback. But I think the thing is as well that with the bolt carrier group in the blowback gas ones, it's obviously not trying to cock a spring at the same time as going rearward, so it hasn't got that resistance. So considering it's got to cock the spring and it's going rearwards at the same time, then yeah, the recoil's more than acceptable. Accuracy, it's a lot better than the one that I got to try a couple of years ago. Yeah, it's really nice. It would be great to see a few more people doing something similar. I think it's a really great concept to have that hybrid style, bringing the best of gas and electric. You know, this is going to be the same in the winter as it is in the summer. You're not going to have to worry about gas pressure and cool down. So in that regard, it's really good.
Yes,
it's a great idea.
Long run, that'll be cheaper to run.
Yes.
It's going to take 5 years of skirmishing to do so, but
yeah. I guess as well, I think what I've seen for a lot of people who have got a DAS, they tend to only have 1 or 2 guns. Like they might have 1 or 2 primaries, but they've really sunk everything into them. Whereas I've got 2 lower receivers for my ergs and 3 different uppers, 4 different uppers, so I can swap them round.
Yeah, I've got 11 ARs and about 9 AKs.
Yeah, and with the Maruis I've got half a dozen or so, I think. So, you know, you could argue if I sold all those, I could get 2 or 3 really
I think it's a really interesting point there. If I was to do one kit,
yes.
If I was to have one kit, I played a lot.
I'd probably get a DAS.
I think, and I got rid of most of the stuff with the guns I don't normally use. I think a DAS actually might, in that case, for the person that
it would make sense.
Does one thing really well, it would make a lot of sense. If you do a lot of different impression kits.
Or if you just like having a choice.
Yeah.
You know, I think if I had this, I certainly wouldn't get the 16-inch version, I'd get the shorter one.
Yeah.
And I'd probably Mark 18 it, or Mark 16. But I like having the ability to go from a Mod O to a Mod 1 to a 416 to an SCAR to a Mark 16, depending on what I'm doing.
I think that's a really good way of looking at that. If you're going to have one gun.
But if I was going to do one impression.
One really good gun.
So I was going to go CAG or Delta, and that was it.
Yeah.
Then yeah, I would be very, very tempted. Probably take quite a lot to talk me out of not getting a DAS.
Yeah.
There you go.
Right,
bombshell. Yeah.
It's been a good day at Thurlaston Airgun and Archery Centre as ever. Thanks for coming down and bringing your total recoil guns.
You're very welcome.
We've had a really good time. Just like to say, if you want to help this project, you can join our Patreon scheme or buy one of our fantastic t-shirts. If you want to follow Phil some more, where can we find you?
On Facebook at Clearwater Airsoft or on Instagram at Clearwater_Airsoft. And if you want to help me out, you can buy me a DAS.
Phil's DAS Fun.
DAS Fun, yeah.
As always, stay safe and we'll see you soon.
Take care.